Hey, who saw the practice today? Raise your hands. Nice, nice. Thank you. Well, welcome to beautiful Veterans Memorial Park here in downtown Pensacola. It's a lovely night for Blues in the City, and thank you very much for taking time to come see us. So just so you know, we're streaming this live. Hello to our online audience. Probably everyone can make it out who wanted to be here, so we wanted to give them a chance to catch us online. So hello to our online folks. I'm Lieutenant Dave Gardner, the Public Affairs Officer for your United States Navy Blue Angels. And I'm going to be your host tonight. Yay! Thank you. All right, so Blues in the City. Why do we do Blues in the City? We love it. We love Pensacola. We love everything about Pensacola, and most of all, we love the people of Pensacola. And that's you guys. We absolutely could not do what we do every day or every weekend through the show season without the support that we get from Pensacola. So give yourselves a round of applause. I also want to thank the city of Pensacola for putting this on tonight. We had a lot of help setting up this event. And so thanks to the city of Pensacola, thanks to the folks who make Veterans Memorial Park look so nice all the time. And thank you to everybody who had a hand in this wonderful event. I think it's going to be a good time. And hopefully you all have a great time too. So here's what we're going to do. Tonight, this is going to be a two-part event. So the first part is going to be a question and answer session with the table of distinguished gentlemen you see behind me. And you will have the opportunity to ask your most burning questions to the Blue Angels using this. All right? So while I'm talking, be thinking of your questions. Almost everything is okay to talk about. Almost. And then the second part, I think we'll do that for 15 or 20 minutes. The second part, we're going to give them a break, and they can come out and shake hands and take photos and sign all the posters that I see around and whatever else you happen to have. How's that sound, everyone? Good? This is an awesome turnout. All right, so without further ado, and be thinking of your questions, I'm going to introduce the Blue Angels who are here with us tonight. So on the far left, we have Blue Angel number 3, our left wingman from Memphis, Tennessee, Major Jeff Mullins. Next to Jeff, we've got Blue Angel number 6, our opposing solo, Lieutenant Commander Brandon Hempler from Wamego, Kansas. Next to him, you'll see our Blue Angel number 7. Blue Angel number 7 is our narrator, our VIP pilot, our media pilot, and our key influencer pilot, Lieutenant Andre Webb from Lawton, Oklahoma. All right, next is the newest addition to our C-130. Many of you might know her as Fat Albert. Thank you. Our newest addition to the pilot team there, our M3 Captain, U.S. Marine Corps, Bo Mabry. Next to Bo, you have our executive officer, Commander Matt Kaslick from the Woodland, Texas. And then on the end, on the far right, you have the man who is solely responsible for being sure that we get 6 aircraft in the air every weekend. And he's kind of a behind-the-scenes guy. So this is a really, really, really cool opportunity to get to talk to our maintenance officer, Lieutenant Garrett Hopkins. All right, guys. And I am Lieutenant Dave Gardner, the Blue Angels Public Affairs Officer from no other than Warrensburg, Missouri. Thank you. All right, folks, so now you've had time to think of all your questions, everything you wanted to know about your U.S. Navy Blue Angels, and I am ready to take the first one. Now, for our online folks who are listening, we're not going to leave you out. If you want to put your questions in the comments section, we will be sure those get filtered down to the table too, and we'll get you an answer. All right, so who's going to be the first brave soul? Captain America, come up here. What's your name?
Devin Van Natter.
Devin Van Natter.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about your question right quick.
Okay. I would like to ask Dwayne what's his favorite celebrity that
Let's do that.
Okay.
Here you go.
Okay. This is for Andre Webb, Blue Angel number 7. Is there any certain instance or celebrity this year that you've taken up that has been your favorite by far?
That's a great question. What's your name again? Sorry.
Devin Van Natter.
Devin, thanks for asking that, man. Every week I get to take up some lucky individuals at different show sites, and it's a great opportunity to show them a little bit, at least, of what these guys go through flying every day. So physically demanding, and it's something that they've never seen before. So it's very foreign to them for the most part. So as long as they come into it with a positive mental attitude and are excited to be there, the flights typically go pretty well, regardless of whether or not they get sick or pass out or anything like that. So to single out one individual, I think would be unfair to all of them just because of how foreign it is. And I think at least up to this point, about halfway through the season, I haven't anyone told me that they didn't have a great time.
Okay, good. First one's off. Here we go. Here we have another one. Ma'am, what's your name?
Shannon,
Okay, Shannon, what's your question?
what's your process to become a Blue Angel?
Process to become a Blue Angel. Who do you want to take? 6.
Well, thank you, Shannon, for answering that, or for asking that, excuse me. The process for becoming a Blue Angel is obviously we have multiple members of the team. We got everywhere from the support officers to the pilots. So the pilots have a minimum hours requirement for the jet pilots. So they need 1,250 hours, and they need to have experience in the fleet flying F-18s, flying Harriers, whatever tactical aircraft out there, all kinds of aircrafts that they can come from. So that's part of what the pilots need. Our C-130 pilots, they need the experience flying, obviously, throughout the fleet in the C-130. And then our support officers have a myriad of requirements that they have to have as well. Obviously, one of the most important things we have is experience. So you won't find a whole lot of real junior people. Almost everyone on the team has been in the military, Navy, Marine Corps for at least 10 years. And everyone that we have on the team, not just the officers, but the enlisted as well, have a lot of experience working on the F-18, on the C-130, doing administrative work as well, public affairs work as well. And that's one of the nice things about the team. We have a great team that's made up of very experienced individuals. Does that answer your question? All right.
Thanks, Brandon. Okay, Brianna has a question. Brianna, go.
What is your favorite state you've actually been through flying?
Sounds like a pilot question. I think Captain Mabry's been to a lot of states.
That's a tough one. What did you say your name was again?
Brianna.
Brianna. It's a good question. I think it's pretty hard. There's a lot of beautiful states here. It's probably a toss-up between Hawaii and Alaska for me. They're pretty hard to beat as far as scenery and with the water and mountains around. So I haven't really got to fly in Pensacola since Bert's been down, so I can't speak for Florida right now, but from my experience, those would be my favorite too. Does that answer your question?
And how about EXO and Mo? Do you guys have any weigh in on that? Your favorite states? Well, I was backseater for years in the A6 Prowlers, and I spent a lot of time up in Washington State, and they have really great low levels up in the Cascade Range. I've enjoyed flying over there, and I've done some flying throughout the world, in Germany and other places overseas. But it's always great to fly in the States, and expectations with your crewmen and your maintenance folks that are with you. It's been a great experience flying everywhere we get to fly, and it's wonderful that every year the team gets to fly to different locations, and I think we take different experiences from where we've been, and it's been an awesome opportunity. All right, Mo, favorite state?
Yes, it's simple for us. The state that we don't break enough stuff in, so where they operate the best in. So each state has its challenges logistically. I mean, they're all beautiful areas. I'd say California. I like California. It's beautiful, but all in all for us is where they operate and don't give us the most trouble the jets are. Thank you.
Straight from maintenance, ladies and gentlemen. That's the one thing on Mo's mind is maintenance. Good job, Mo. So Dee Dee has a question for Jeff, number 3. Go ahead, Dee Dee.
As a new pilot, how scary was it the first time going up with the other Blue Angels?
Well, the first time we went and flew, Dee Dee, we just flew as 2 aircraft together, so it wasn't that much different than flying the fleet. The first time we flew as the Diamond or the Delta, well, it was a lot different than anything I had done in the fleet and very challenging. We trust everybody, each pilot with our lives, and I wouldn't say it was scary or nerve-wracking. You just more focused on getting the job done and putting on a good show. So there was challenges to it, but in the end it was a lot of fun and not really that stressful because we really trust everybody that we fly with.
Right, and just to underscore the trust idea there, this whole team could not function if it weren't for the trust element. I think that's kind of the underlying fundamental that each of us has to embrace, and each of us has to know that the guy next to us, whether you're a ground officer or a pilot, but that everyone's going to pull their weight and is going to do their job. And so trust is a major element in the success of any team, especially the Blue Angels. Okay, so we've got one from Collins here. Collins, go ahead, bud.
What would you do if you lost one of your engines?
And so I think we could get maybe a pilot response on this and maybe a maintenance officer response on this. Over to you.
That's a good question, Collins. I wondered that when I was your age as well. What happens if one of the engines stops working? Well, very rarely does that happen because we have outstanding aircraft. We have outstanding maintainers. So usually, if that does happen, it's probably because a bird decided to fly down the engine. That every once in a while will happen. I think all of our aircraft, I can't speak, C-130, I know for a fact can fly on one or can lose an engine, and in fact, I think can even fly on one engine. But luckily, they have 4, so that doesn't happen very often. The F-18 periodically will lose an engine for some reason or another. But at that point, if we are in the middle of a flight demonstration, we're going to be unable to continue doing, because we need both engines to do the flight demonstration. However, the airplane will fly on one engine, and usually we can safely land fairly easily, whether it be at that airfield that we're working at, or we usually have a spare airfield that we can go to as well, if need be, in order to not hinder the demonstration. So the most important thing is we're going to be safe in whatever decision that we do make. The other thing being is we have our support officers on the ground that are helping us go through the procedures on what to do if we do lose that engine. So again, speaking to the whole team, it takes the whole team for these airplanes to fly. I'll let Bo tell you a little bit more about Fat Albert.
Yeah, so a little different for us, Collins. We train a lot to losing an engine because that's actually kind of in a multi-engine aircraft. That's something that can happen. As Brandon was saying, it's something that can happen in flight. It's very rare. I've never had it happen, but you train to it. So we go in simulators. You also have a thing called a check ride in the aircraft, and you'll actually pull a power lever so that you lose an engine kind of like a simulated way. and you train to it. And the same thing if it's during the demonstration, we'll stop, we'll fly around, come back, and land, and it's really not a big deal on a C-130. It's very handleable, and you have 3 other engines that are good, super easy to fly. So does that answer your question?
And then Mo, what happens on the road when we lose an engine?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the full circle of this is, Brandon mentioned how we're going to land, and depending on where we're at in the demonstration, we'll put that pilot in the spare jet, which is the 7 jet, and put him back in the demonstration to continue on, again, depending on where we're at in the demonstration. Additionally, if we do have an engine that goes down on the road, and we're lucky enough to have one on site, or we have one staged around the country, that one's on hand. We'll get that motor changed in 2 hours. So think of a Disney movie. By the time you finish watching a Disney movie or something, that motor's changed in 7. If the weather's good, we'll get up and profile that jet, and it'll be ready to go for the next day. Does that answer your question? Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys. Multi-part question there. Okay, I've got one from Benjamin here. Benjamin, what's your question, buddy?
How fast does the fighter jet go?
How fast does a fighter jet go? Good question, Benjamin.
Well, Ben, they can go pretty fast. I think the fastest we go on the show is probably around 690 miles an hour. Is that about right? And that's this guy right here that goes that fast. The Diamond, we keep it a bit slower. The fastest these jets can go is Mach 1.8, which is, what is that, around 1,300 miles an hour? 1,100 miles an hour. So pretty fast. Faster than you can probably run.
Thanks, guys. Good job, Benjamin. Okay, so I'm going to take one from the internet right quick. And this is probably on everyone's mind. What is the update on Fat Albert? Let me know if you need help on this.
Well, the update's in the past. So we flew the check flight, and it all went well with Fat Albert. So Fat Albert, if for the people living here, may have seen her flying in the air. We actually flew her up to New York and back just last week. So she's awaiting to support the team for all the logistics runs that we have.
Yay!
Nice work, Bo. Nice work. All right. Okay, Zeb's got the next one. Go for it, Zeb.
How big are the Blue Angels?
How big are the Blue Angels? I think how big are the Jets for one, and then how big is the team for the seconds?
Well, but the jets are about 56 feet long from the tip of the nose back there to the back of the tailhook of the engines. The team, as far as that goes, so there are about 17 officers and approximately 100 enlisted personnel comprise the Navy's Flight Demonstration Squadron, if that answers your question.
Okay, here's another one. The online audience wants to know, what are the effects of G-forces on the body? So who probably pulls the most G? 6 or 7?
Well, the effects of G-forces, to start off with, when you pull G, you're heavier, so it's just a bit more physically demanding to hold your head up or move your body itself. But also, all the blood rushes from your head to your lower part of your body. So as the blood leaves your head, you kind of lose vision, and if you don't do anything, you'll eventually pass out, which usually isn't a good thing. What we do is we don't fly with G-suits, so we get really good at squeezing our legs, squeezing our core, and flexing everything to drive the blood back into our head so we can stay awake and do the cool maneuvers you see out there during the show. Generally, the highest G they'll pull in the show is around 7.5 Gs. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you're probably way over 1,400 pounds when you pull that many G-forces in the show itself. But we train a lot, we practice a lot, and we trust each other, and so we get really good at dealing with that during the flight. Does that answer your question? It was an internet question, wasn't it?
That's good, yeah. Thanks, Jeff. And I've got another one here from Leslie.
What is the name of your jet?
So you can go. You can go a few ways. You got the tail number. You got the Buno number. If you want to jump into that.
Yeah, good question. The name of the jet that we fly, like we fly the F-18. Each of the jets has a number on it. Have you ever seen the Blue Angels fly before? No. Well, each we have 6 airplanes that fly in the actual demonstration, and then as our maintenance officer talked about earlier, we have the number 7 jet as well that Andre flies and gives the back seat rides in, and that's a 2-seater. So each of us have our number on the jet, and then those jets have a more specific, we called it a bureau number or a BUNO, that actually identifies that individual jet. As far as personal names, like your parents may have a name for their car or something like that. I don't know that any of us actually give our jets personal names, but that's what the numbers on the sides mean. That who's flying that jet.
Does that make sense? Okay. Hey guys, I've got another one from the internet. What is your diet like? And maybe we get a couple takes on this.
I'll take that one. Diet, I think for the most part, everyone has to stay physically fit. We're mandated in the military to work out at least 3 times a week. I think on the team it's more than that to combat those G-forces. So a good balanced diet, aerobic activity, anaerobic activity is always important. I'm a football player from days past, so I always like to eat. But I think for the most part, a lot of these guys like to eat salads, high protein, and they definitely stay hydrated. And the amount of water we go through in the squadron is amazing. I'd say we do at least a 5-gallon jug about every other day. So I think for the most part, everybody eats a well-balanced and healthy diet.
Okay. Good take on the diet there. Okay, so I've got one from Miles here, and it's a history question. So, Miles, what do you got, bud?
Why is your name the Blue Angels?
I'm going to go with XO. Your last answer was real good, sir.
Well, the Blue Angels, started in 1946, and it originally was like the Blue Lancers was the original name. And then the team was, I believe, up in New York City, and there was a lounge called the Blue Angels, and they realized that, hey, this sounds like a great name, and we adopted that name, and we've been forever known as the Blue Angels.
And there you have it, the history of the Blue Angels in a nutshell. Okay, guys, we've got another one from the internet. How close are the solos during the knife edge pass?
Well, that's a good question. It looks like we're pretty close, doesn't it? Well, for the most part, we start out doing those maneuvers. We aren't very close at all. We a lot like the diamond they will actually be quite a ways apart at the very beginning until we get more and more comfortable with learning all of those maneuvers. Right now, we're roughly, when we cross on most of our crossing maneuvers, we are roughly 150 to 200 feet away. As we get more comfortable as the season goes on, we'll probably take that down into roughly 100 feet. So, yeah, obviously safety being our most important thing there. So we're never going to make it unsafe, but it is part of the show to make it look like we are very close there. And that's something that number 5 and myself have worked on, gaining a lot of trust out of each other. He has to trust that I'm not going to be getting too close to him, and I have to trust that he's not getting too close to me on those crossing maneuvers as well. For the diamond, if you'd like to know how close the diamond are, I'll let Jeff talk a little bit about that.
Well, we don't do as many crossing maneuvers as the solos do. They get really good at making the maneuvers look really good at center point. We do a lot more precise, tight flying, and generally we're probably about 3 to 4 feet apart, but our closest will get to 18 inches apart. And just like the solos don't start off making these really tight hits over center point, we start off really far away. As the season progresses, we get tighter and tighter. And even right now, we're not even in the tightest sets we'll end up at the end of the season.
Pretty close, guys. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right. Damon's got the next one. Go, Damon.
About how long have you been riding together?
Yeah, so how long has the current team been flying together?
Yeah, Damon. So for the 6 demonstration pilots and myself included in the majority of the team, we turn over about 50% of the team every year. So for the 6 guys you see flying in the show, 3 of them are new in their specific position, and the other 3 were there or in a different position last year. So pretty fresh almost every single year. Did that answer your question? Thanks, Dee.
All right, great. Thank you. We've got Lane here with one.
How many shows have you done?
We'll keep that to this year.
Yeah, this past Sunday we flew our 30th demonstration of the season in Traverse City, Michigan.
And to add on to that, Lane, but it's not just the demonstrations that we've done. We've done we did over 150 to 200 flights just getting prepared for this season. So a lot of practices. We only count the actual demos, so number 30 on the demo, but we've done probably over 300 practices and flights together since the beginning of the season.
Great, thanks, guys. Ronnie here's got a question on practice.
Yes, how many hours do you practice a week, month, and then the year?
Well, we start off in Pensacola winter training. So as soon as the season ends in November, we start flying again. We generally fly 2 times a day, 5 days a week, so Monday through Friday, all the way up to about Christmas. And then we go to El Centro. We fly 2 to 3 times a day, 6 days a week for about 2.5 months. So I don't know what that adds up to. Like Brandon said, generally around 150 to 200 practice flights before the season even starts. Then after that, we fly anywhere between, 8 or 9 times a week. Generally, we practice on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We fly our new show site on Thursdays, do 2 practice flights Thursday, practice flight Friday, a show Saturday and Sunday, then Sunday night we fly home. So it ends up being a lot of flights in the year, and generally, 7 to 8 flights a week. Yeah, go ahead.
And that practice is, everyone sees the 6 jets flying, but from every little member or part of our team that is involved in us putting on successful shows for the public around the country, they're involved in that practice as well. So from the maintainers who are working on jets to our public affairs staff here who do a great job there, spread the message, to the C-130 guys who not only help us with logistics, but also help us handle our interaction with Make-A-Wish at a show, to our XO and our Mo out there at Comcart and the rest of the team. That's for all of them to get better at their specific task or function on the team, so that the 6 jets you see flying around, or my voice you hear out there trying not to mess up every week, sounds like it's perfect and has been rehearsed to a T.
Hey, and just to add to that, so specifically, we budget for the flight hours on the jets. Not so much Bert, but and she has a flight plan as well. But 250 hours for the actual season, 350 total. So if you encompass what we do, what we mentioned in December all the way through November, 350 total hours is what the maintenance management's budgets for motors, overhauls, scheduled maintenance, things of that nature. To answer your question, absolutely awesome.
Great, thanks, guys. I've got one here from Michael. This is one we get quite a bit at Crowdline.
Hello. My question is, what % of the time is it computer assisted?
You got it?
Would you believe that none of our flying is computer assisted? Now, I say that in the transits, there are times when we're transiting, up at 28,000 feet or whatever, where we may set the autopilot. But are you asking about the actual flying? Yeah, the actual flying, that is 100% person flying the airplane. So I guess if you wanted to say, we do have a fly-by-wire flight control system, but all of those inputs are put in by the actual person flying the aircraft. And I believe the same thing is true for Fat Albert as well.
It's actually exactly the same for Fat Albert. So transits we'll put on autopilot and what we need to go from point A to point B. But during the demo, it's all hand flown. So we had no autopilot during that.
All right, guys. Thanks. That's very interesting. That's one we get quite a few questions about. So thanks for addressing that. And we're going to come back to Michael. He's got another one. But I've got one I want to talk about that we got from the internet. What do you do on your days off?
So I think that differs for each person, but I think a lot of us who have families take the time to spend it with their families since we're gone on the road so much. It's pretty nice to be home and relax and just spend time with your significant others. Does anybody have a different?
You could also say that, we have lives too where we have to take care of life admin. So you're paying the bills, you're keeping track of running errands and doing laundry and going shopping and doing all that other stuff to stay ahead for the week. So I think that encompasses a lot of the days off and catching up on things that we might slip behind. We got, paperwork to do as well. And, like they said, the team's made of about 120 members. We have a lot of paperwork that goes behind each person, and that's important for their careers and helping them advance. So sometimes we have to catch up on that on our free time as well.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Few and far between days off, but you got to make them count, right, guys? Hey, I've got one from Peyton here. Peyton, go for it, bud.
How high can planes go when they're going straight up?
That's a great question. Well, the F-18 can fly as high as right around 50,000 feet if it needs to. Now, in our typical demo, I will actually do the sneak pass from behind the crowd to right over your head usually, and hopefully my goal is to scare you actually. And in that, I'll point straight up and I'll do a few little aileron rolls on the way up, and typically, if I do it just right, I'll top out at 15,000 feet, and that's about as high as we'll go throughout the flight demonstration. So carrying all that speed and turning that speed into altitude is what we're doing on that particular maneuver there. For most of the actual other maneuvers, on a typical high show, we're getting as high as about 8 to 9, maybe even 10,000 feet on some of our maneuvers. So that's kind of, we can't get too high, otherwise you guys wouldn't be able to see us during our demonstration. So that's why we right around 10,000 feet up to 15,000 feet. Does that answer your question, buddy? Awesome.
Very cool. Okay, we've got time for 2 or 3 more. That way we've got plenty of time on the back end for photos and autographs and all that good stuff. So I have Juliana, right? Juliana's here, and I'm going to let her take over.
What was your guys' first flight like?
My first flight ever in a Navy airplane, I really had no clue what I was doing. And my instructor kept asking me questions, and I was just like, I don't know. I think he threw something at the back of my head while we were flying along there, and then we landed, and he's like, "Dude, if you want to be a Navy pilot, you got a long way to go." So I obviously sort of listened a little bit and have made it this far. And you guys probably have something a little different than that if you want to add.
No, that's. I think that sort of rings true for all of us. When we first started flying, we probably weren't very good at it at first, but it's like kind of anything where the first time you go shoot a basketball, you may not be draining 3-pointers, right? But you practice and practice and practice and get better at it and get better at it. And next thing you know, if we're flying F-18s, we're flying C-130s, we're flying all of our trainer aircraft, and when we got very experienced in them as well. Does that answer your question? All right.
All right, very cool, guys. And so if there was someone in the crowd who maybe wanted to be a Blue Angel one day or just wanted to be a naval aviator or an aviator, period, any tidbits of advice?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to get in the Navy or the Marine Corps to fly, and there's a lot of different paths to go there. Really, if you're just starting out, just work hard in school, make good grades, and probably one of the biggest things is just learn from your mistakes, learn from anything that you fail in life, and just take anything that you fail out and build upon that to make yourself better at it throughout life.
Yeah, I think another important factor is if you look at everybody's bios on this team, they all came from a team, and that's what we are. We all work together to a common goal and a mission. But a lot of them were athletes, so that team concept of facing adversity when you're young and what it feels like to win and meet an objective, I think that's very important and goes a long way. And I think that plays true no matter what position you're on this team, and from every step of the way, from whether it was in high school or college, or even going through flight school, is just having that team concept. And I think the other part, too, is a lot of people think you got to be really great at math or science. That is important, too. But I think for the amount of publications that everybody has to absorb and read and regurgitate, I think reading comprehension is probably one of the biggest niches to have in being an aviator. So from the academic side, that would be kind of my vote, because you have people that are engineers, you have people that studied history, you have people that studied home economics, and they all end up being a pilot. But I think that's just from my observation from the last 20 plus years is reading comprehension and team sports.
Great. Yeah, all good things to take away. Definitely important to have trust in a team. Anytime you're part of a team, everyone's looking to you to do your part, and that's kind of the fundamental fabric of the Blue Angels. All right, I've got one here from Dean. We've got 2 more questions. All right, I've got Dean here with a question on Fat Albert.
How many maintenance hours did it take to get it back up?
Thanks, Dean. So roughly it was 2,200, and that was different levels of maintenance. So you had the squadron working on it, you had depot teams working on it, and things of that nature, but right around 2,200.
Good. And one more. What's your name?
Langley,
Okay, go ahead, Langley.
how long can you be a Blue Angel pilot?
Langley, so typically it's 2 to 3 years, depending on what position you have. For all the C-130 pilots, it's 3 years, but this year we're actually freezing us, so we'll end up doing 4. 7 here, and typically goes to 6 and 5, so they do 3 years, and then Diamond pilots typically do 2. That can always change based on if you come back for another tour. Certain aviators have come back and done 2 tours, which turns into 4 or 5 years. So, and then for all the support officers, it's 2 years.
Great. Okay, everyone, I know there's probably a million more questions, but so that we can make time to come out and meet some of you fantastic folks, sign your posters, and just chit-chat with you. We're going to cut the Q&A off right now, but don't worry, the Blue Angels aren't leaving for a little while. So before we break, I really, really, really want to thank the City of Pensacola Veterans Memorial Park, all the food trucks that came out, everybody involved in making tonight possible. This is a very cool opportunity, again, one we really look forward to, and we always cherish the time we get to hang out with our hometown fans. Hopefully you all had a good time here tonight. Who's going to the Pensacola Beach Air Show next Saturday, the 14th? Okay. Excellent. I will be there too. All right, so thanks again for joining us tonight. Please take part in all the food that's up here, and I'm going to cut the Blues loose here so that they can kind of come out and mingle. And be sure that if you do one thing this week, you have a safe and a happy 4th of July. Thanks for coming out, everyone. Good night.